Okay, good.
Yep.
And we are recording now too. All right, so good evening, everybody. Say good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That's right. Good evening.
Good evening.
So we have, let's see, I got too many pages of stuff to do today, which means it won't be boring, but unfortunately it's a little bit, oh, there's another notebook missing. So just a sec, talk amongst yourselves or whatever, I'll be right back.
Jackie Stone, I can see you. So
Yes.
you've got the lights worked out.
Pardon me?
I can see you. So the lights
Yeah.
worked out for you this time.
A little better.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know what? I said I was going to start rehearsals with more physical action, but I forgot to prepare anything for that. So we could just do a little bit of stretching from wherever you are. And I'll think of something while we punt, you know. So reach to the ceiling. See if you can hold up the ceiling. I am. I love being tall. Never mind. So, and let's do the clock face. We could do that. Even if you're sitting, you could probably do some part of the clock face. So reach up to 12 o'clock and again to 12 o'clock. And then 11 o'clock over here and 1 o'clock over here and 10 o'clock over here and 2 o'clock over here and 9 and 3 and 8 and 4 and 7 and 5 and 6. All right, okay, so the idea is of that exercise, there are a few things going on, but one of them is just to kind of activate your whole torso so that when you're preparing to breathe, you have said hello to all that part of your body so that you're ready to take in air in a comfortable, easy way. Remember, as Scott Kovacs was saying, it's good to have your hinges move freely so the body can move freely as you take in that breath. So I think I want to, also a very important thing, which we will probably wait a few more minutes for a few more people to come in, is to do November birthdays. So we haven't sung Happy Birthday since early October and want to give a try to that again. And I don't know how we'll do it. I haven't thought of anything creative. So maybe we'll just sing it all muted and that'll be fine. But I'll sing a solo Happy Birthday for you all. But we'll get to that in a little bit after a few more people come in, if they do. Hey, wait, what did you just do, Roger? Tell us what you...
I just have a background that I made for birthdays.
Okay, and that's cute. And you don't happen to have a birthday this November, do you?
No.
Oh, okay, just be...
April.
Oh, okay, we'll try to remember that in April. Good. Okay, but let's go ahead and do a little bit of phonation. We'll do the straw phonation to begin with. And I wanted to, we'll do some of the same things we've done before, but I wanted to also focus on some onset and things like that. Let's just go ahead and we'll start with 3 low blasts. Remember that's what Scott was doing when he does vocal warm-ups in his voice lessons. He starts out with 3 low blasts. You can take them at your own time. I don't know how long you'll want to go. So and so one thing I've been hearing, And by the way, I've just muted you all, just FYI, so you know that. And we are recording right. One of the things that I've been hearing about is being aware of how much bubble is happening and making that consistent. So that's one thing that Charles, Lorraine's voice teacher, has been talking to her about, and that I've been reading about in other sources. It's also something else that Charles asked Lorraine to do was to make the sound, to use the straw phonation in such a way that you're using as a small amount of air as possible. So it may be that as you've been doing the straw phonation, you've actually been using more air than you need, and that's not something we've necessarily been thinking about. So this time, let's go ahead and just do some easy glides and slides. And as you're doing that, notice how much air, how high the bubbles are going in your glass. We would want them to be pretty consistent in amplitude. So here we go. I'm going to do it again. One of the things that Lorraine is working on in her lessons is being aware of how much pressure to put on her voice. She wants to balance between being supported, having your air used. Remember, we talked about the epigastrium and the sense that work was happening from here in her singing, but you have to balance that with not putting too much pressure on the voice. And that's one of the reasons why I thought maybe straw phonation might be helpful for her. And it's early days for her, so we have to figure that out. But for you, as you're doing this, you want to balance between the amount of air you're using and the focus that you're doing from here versus the amount that's coming through the straw and making the bubbles. That's one thing that the straw phonation does, is to help us figure out how to balance those things. But I want you to think about that as you're aware of the straw phonation. Think about how much air you're using from here. Can you be aware of that? And can you be aware of how it feels from here? And can you be aware of what you're seeing in the glass? All those things are information for you to take in. Let's do some more slides and glides. I'm going to do another one all together. So I'm curious if people felt like, as they were singing, that they had a consistent, steady feeling of energized activity happening in their torso, in that epigastrium area. Did people feel that as you were doing it? Anybody want to comment on that, what they felt or did not feel? Okay, we can move on. So some of the things that I've been hearing in tracks from people, and by the way, I've got about 40 tracks, I think, now for Sing On, which is cool. You know, if you're a straggler and you want to still get one in, you could do that. But yes, today was the theoretical closing date of Sing On recordings. Anyway, so I've got about 40, which is great. That'll be a nice full rich chorus sound if that's what we end up with. But so as I hear the different tracks from different people, I hear the things that it would be great to work on and to help you develop as skills in your singing. And one of those things is onset, more about onset. And in this particular case, it's a question of which pitch are you on when you begin starting your sound. So we've talked about the quality of your attack, of your first phonation sound. Is it airy? Is it breathy? Is it glottalized? Is it somewhere in the middle? We haven't talked quite so much about what the pitch might be. And in many cases, I hear people slide up to the pitch that they're intending to sing. And so they begin lower than that. And they need to be thinking about what that should feel like instead. So here's what I want to do. I'm experimenting here. I'm making something up to try it out and see what you think. So let's do some intentional scoops up. We're going to have a pitch in mind. You can choose a different pitch if you want, but I'm going to choose a D, I think. So it'd be like that kind of feeling. We're gonna come to the D, but you're gonna start on a pitch that's lower than that intentionally with the straw phonation. Let's do it 3 times. So here we go. Now let's do it another 3 times and get gradually faster so that the slide, the pitch slide, is faster and faster each time. By the 3rd time, maybe there's hardly any slide at all. Let's do it again. It's interesting. I find that I have to have a little bit of air pressure. I have to get the air moving before I can really think about what pitch I'm creating. I have to think about that. What do people notice? What are you noticing as you're doing this? Are you hearing anything? And you are muted, so if you want to say something, okay, Ed, go for it. Let's see.
I prefer to go for the right note.
Yeah, okay. Good. So let's do that intentionally. And the thing is that when you make it intentional that you are actually singing the wrong note, or you're sliding from below, the idea is that makes it something that you can be aware of and identify what it feels like to do that, so that you can choose not to do that when you're intending not to. So right on the pitch, here's a D. We're going to just attack right on that pitch 3 times. Here we go. Release. And what do you hear in terms of pitch? And go. Ah, without the straw. Ah, oh, oh, ooh, ooh. Do a slide up on purpose. Ooh. Do a fast slide on purpose. Ooh. Yep, okay. So as you do that, oh, George, you got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as a former instrumentalist, brass player, I know that you have to have some energy going before the sound will come out. Like, especially if you're like a tuba player, there has to be a good amount of energy coming. You have to actually start buzzing your lips before the sound comes. You expect the sound to come out, so they're always playing just ahead of the beat in order
Yes.
to stay with the beat.
Yeah, good point.
So
I
it's
like.
sort of a little bit like that. Yeah, have to have some energy ready at the very beginning, or you won't have any sound to go with it.
Nice. Thank you. That's a good point. I saw Brian has a hand up too.
The thing I'm having the most trouble with is when I've got bubbles going, maybe it's my hearing or whatever, I have a heck of a time finding a pitch.
Okay.
When there's bubbles, the pitch gets all garbled. I can't tell if I'm holding the right pitch or sliding. I think I'm sliding because that's what I'm telling my voice to do.
But
But
you're not sure.
when I get there, I'm not sure I'm there. It's really difficult.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm having a lot of troubles with the straws in general. It's just I'm not finding myself able to think of the things that you suggest that we're thinking about, and there's too much distraction just trying to keep the bubbles going.
So I'm thinking you need to get in the same train as Lorraine, just one note at a time. That's all you get is one note. I'm being a little silly, but it's also true. You always, when you're thinking about vocal technique issues and singing and learning a song, reduce down. Find the elements that are either distracting you or are too difficult to deal with at the moment. That's not necessarily your case that I'm talking about, but just in any case, what can you reduce down to find the baseline for what you're able to do with a straw, and then build back up from there so that you are you have that baseline, you have that foundational understanding of how the straw feels when you make your sound and what it does for you in terms of how you're using your voice. So maybe you might say what are some of the distractions, or say a distraction, Brian? We'll just chase this for a moment.
It's just depending on how deep the straw is in the water, sometimes it's more difficult to blow, of course, the deeper it is. And I find myself just not making any bubbles at all. I feel like I'm humming and not getting any air moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a natural feeling yet. I'm trying, but it's
Okay.
just,
That's good.
I find myself thinking, okay, I've got to make bubbles. I've got to get, keep the bubbles going. Breathe in such a way that make sound in such a way that I'm moving air, not just making a tone. And I find myself all worked up about all that stuff and not even able to think about the rest of it yet. So it's just difficult.
Thank you for sharing that. And one of the things that I want to glom onto that you said is getting worked up, which totally makes me think of Alexander technique and the questions about tightening up that I've been studying, that I've talked about occasionally, because that is something that I see not just in this group of people in front of me on the Zoom. I see it from some of you as you put the straw, and you do this sometimes. Some of you reach your head forward to find that straw, and that's meaning you're out of line, right? You're misaligned, you're miscoordinated as you do that. But I even see that on the internet, on websites of people who are demonstrating how to do straw phonation. They are coming out of alignment as they do it, as they demonstrate how to do it, which is not what we want. So thinking and working up, there's a getting worked up is what I mean. There are lots of terms in English that we use that are idioms, that are colloquialisms, that actually really tie in closely to what's happening physically to us. So for example, getting worked up, just imagine when you get tense and your shoulders rise up and your neck is tight and maybe your forehead is tight too, that's worked up. And there's a physical manifestation of what's happening when you're worked up. Or think about Charlie Brown, right? Grit your teeth and get a hit, right? I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna do it. That whole tension, that whole making it happen, there's so much tightness involved with that also, which is probably counterproductive in most cases. Or focusing and tightening and making sure that people know that you're really thinking hard about something. That's all going to build tension and get in the way of what you're attempting to do. So if you can find ways to release as much as possible in that moment when you breathe, in that moment when you pick up the straw and the cup, in that moment when you start to phonate, remember what George was saying about you need a little bit of extra energy going into it, but not tension, not tightness. Here we go. I'm just thinking easy as I begin, right? Oops, I was not in the water. So how are you doing in your neck and head relationship? Is it free? As you took your breath in, did you feel comfortable throughout your body? Is it easy? Try it again. And again. Perhaps if you move a little bit, maybe make something artistic feeling as you're singing it. So I think I added a little bit of tension that time instead of being freer about it. So there's a way of having your vocal onset be something that's easy, that's part of the momentum of the music that's coming at you, that's part of the physicalization of taking a breath that feels like you're preparing yourself to move into the music. These things can be free in your body, and they can be let go of in the muscles that might have a tendency to tighten up. So when we talk about things like the epigastrium and working from the torso and stuff like that, we're developing ideally a sense of what physically active is, what physical activity is needed and needs to be part of what we're doing. And then hopefully we are also identifying other physical activities that we might do when we're singing that we might not usually pay attention to, that we can let go of, that don't need to be part of our singing. See, I see your hand, Mark. Go ahead.
Well, oh dear.
Uh-oh, gotta fix
Oh
that.
dear. Let's see, I don't know how to do this here. Let me,
All right, he's gonna think about that. Oh, he's gonna come over to Ruth's computer. Still muted, Mark?
While he's unmuting,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
two comments. First one is I find that I have to check by pinching my nose that I'm not diverting air, particularly at the beginning. And I found that sometimes I'm humming without. And the other one, and I see it in several of the people in the pictures, is how you hold your hands. With a cup in one hand, I feel a stress in that shoulder.
Ah, It's, yeah. Okay, Mark, are you back yet?
Yeah.
Are you there?
You hear me?
Thank you, Bob. Was there more, Bob? That was it? Okay.
Just resting it against my chest as I'm holding it relieves that sense of stress in the shoulder.
Good. I'm going to think about that, and I'll ponder that for a bit. Meanwhile, go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Well, as Brian said, when you put the straw down deep, the deeper you go in the water, the more pressure it takes to overcome it and start making bubbles, right? So with no straw, when we're just normally singing, I mean, what I'm finding is that I'm having to kind of like take a slightly deeper breath and start, in a way, maybe kind of tensing up a little bit, or at least getting ready to push harder to overcome the resistance of the water. So I guess I was starting to think maybe this is like using dumbbells. If I'm just bending my arm with no weight at all, then it's a certain degree of force required. But if I have dumbbells in my hand, then I have to do it harder, and I have to start harder. So are you is this a strengthening of our like diaphragm kind of a thing? Or I get this thing about feeling the pressure, but it's an artificial thing that we won't have when we're singing. So I guess I'm trying to link it up with what the ultimate result is when it's like walking around with dumbbells all the time.
Right, which you don't want to have dumbbells while you're singing. Sorry, I understand what you're saying. Well, I'm going to let myself think about what the last thing you asked for a moment, and meanwhile go back to something in the middle, which was, you said you feel a need to apply pressure, to push is the word you said. When you
pass the water to start making bubble.
So where do you feel that push happening?
Well, I've noticed myself starting to take a slightly deeper breath, or just that I'm pushing the air out of my lungs a little bit harder in order to overcome the resistance of the water.
And I asked Mark that question, but I'm really asking everybody that question. When you start to phonate and well, how many of you, show me a show of hands, you relate to what Mark is talking about? You're aware that when you need to start making sound through the straw, you have to push a little bit. This goes along with what George was talking about, the tuba thing, right? So you're feeling that as a group generally. So the question then is, to go deeper into that feeling, what are you identifying? Where is that push happening? And are you using some part of your body to push? Because we are used to, it's very common for singers to push here, to push from their body and to way overpower what they're doing. So can you identify it if you have that tendency? I see your hand, Ed. Go ahead.
Well, I was a tuba player, and George is right. And if you can imagine, it's a lot like playing a Volkswagen. You just can't get a hold of it. But there's a ready place there's and everybody's different. Every song is different. The water is different, but you learn a ready place. You've supported your breath and you're ready. And yeah, you play a Volkswagen, you blow a little sooner. If you're singing bass, I think you have to lead a little sooner. You got to get some things you have to get moving. It's, I'm going to say maybe not like a soprano. How would I know? But there's a ready place. Everybody has to learn it for themselves, but it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
That place of release. And then we have to all do it together.
Right.
Okay.
And this context obviously is not the place where we really can learn how to do it together, but in a way that allows you a freedom to explore yourselves right now in your room, in your houses, and find what that ready place is for you. Then other steps in that process are, can you do that on command? Not my command, on your own command. Can you do that at a certain time in preparation for meeting everybody else on a certain beat? Or in the context of what we're doing right now, feeling the click track and being aware of where the sense of rhythm is, can you find that ready place just at the right moment so that you're therefore ready to come in on your first onset in whatever phrase of whatever song you're singing? So for example, if I'm thinking, there's no snow at Christmas in the South, right? Like that, you don't want to be unready. You don't want to be, there's no, well, you don't want to have to take that breath early or rushed or something in the middle. You want to find a way that that breath becomes part of your ready place, as Ed was saying, that's part of the timing, that's part of the momentum, that's part of your whole awareness of the song, and that all fits together in that way. So this actually it is tying into some of the things that I wanted to do today. But let's see, but we haven't really phonated very high or very long or very loud or any of those things. Well, loud is fine. We don't need to sing loud. But let's do a little bit more in terms of actual pitches on the straw phonation. Be using this time. I think I'll set it up in some sort of pattern so we have a steady beat and you're feeling where each one of them is supposed to come in. And we'll do it on a straw phonation. If you want to, sorry, I'll stop the metronome. It's a trick, by the way. Just a little tangent here. I do this all the time in my classroom when I'm teaching, and I do it somewhat at the chorale. If you keep the tempo going, if you keep a beat going, I can talk about all sorts of things, and then suddenly da 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 da. I'm in time, and it's always been the same, and you're aware of it because it's been going on all this time. Anyway, clear that. So here's a pitch. We'll do 1 3 5 3 1, and we'll start on a C. 1 3 5 3 1. We'll go up by half steps. 1 2 3 and. And I'm going to stop for a moment. Some things that you might have been thinking about. Were you taking an easy breath before each exercise? Were you letting go of tension in your neck and your shoulders and your anywhere as you finished the exercise you were just doing? Was there a moment of release that took you back to your ready place? I'm going to use Ed's term forever tonight. Did your breath and your release of your sound take you back to that ready place? Or did it take you to a place where you were increasingly tensing and working up and getting tightened as you did it? We want to be releasing each time. Let's do a sequence of that again. We're going to start a little bit higher. There's a D. We'll work our way up, and your responsibility is to not just sing, but to notice what's happening in between the singing. Okay, 1 2 3 and here. couple more. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So I'm noticing that that it's not something that sorry, let me step backwards here. The preparation that George and that Ed have talked about in terms of that first little bit of motion, a push, if you will. I'm finding that each time I have to remember that. It's not something that's a habit for me. And granted, how much am I going to be singing through a straw in front of people? But still, there is something to be learned about what kind of preparation that takes so that I can prepare in any way for any consonant, any vowel, any phrase, any part of my range, and that I've been thinking about it as I am right now. So I'm curious, did anybody have a comment about what you experienced with that set of exercises? Okay. Do I see a hand? I see a hand from Ed. Oh, I see a hand from Kelly. Go ahead, Kelly.
I'm just going to be totally honest here. I do not feel at all as though I use up, or relax and get back to that place and come back in. It's going to take a lot of practice and not too much thinking about it, because you don't want to overthink it.
It's true. It's true. You're right. So maybe not overthinking of it, but feeling it as you release the exercise. Like if I'm doing it on a V, for example, like V, each time I let go of that exercise, I'm thinking about my body releasing, I'm thinking about my neck releasing, I'm thinking about my shoulders releasing because they want to tighten up tonight. Do you have any set of things like that you're thinking about in between each exercise, that you're a little mantra, a little reminder, release in the neck, release in the shoulders, release the air, anything like that? Yeah, anyway, you can think about that. Okay. So Ed, you had something else too.
Well, it's already said, but I do have to lead. There's a hesitation. No, wrong word. To get the air moving, to get the bubbles on time, I have to lead.
Yeah.
I have to not, and I understand what I'm talking about because I've done it forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like singing voo voo voo. You got to move some water, and you got to be ready to move some water.
Yeah. Yeah. And the straw phonation, I think of it as being, I don't know if I want to say it exactly this way, but like an extreme version of other consonants of vocal, semi-occluded vocal tract exercises where you are having to push forward through some sort of resistance, whether it's a v or a z or a brr or anything like that. You have to get something, you have to get it moving, and most of those are easier to get moving than the bubbles through the straw. So in a way, I suppose you could say that the straw is teaching us about maybe the outer edge of the envelope in terms of the effort we're going to put in, but it's also teaching us about how to not put too much effort in. So, all right, going to leave that for the moment. Well, there was something I wanted to do. What was that? Well, let's do a couple exercises just on some vowels. So it's like oh. What I'm thinking about is having heard some recordings where singers are not necessarily always steady on the pitch, that sometimes it wanders a little bit, maybe it goes down or maybe it goes up, right? Can you be aware of where your pitch is? Can you make it intentional? Like, oh, so my intention is to make that slide down as smooth as possible, no breaks, no cracks, no changes in amplitude. It's about the same amount of volume from the top to the bottom. It's a similar tone quality. I don't let my mouth, I'm not freezing my mouth, but neither do I let it kind of slack and change by inattention. Let's do a few of those together. Here we go. So, oh, and here. Oh, and here. Oh, and here. Oh, and one more. Oh, if you got your straw handy, do that in the straw. Here we go. We'll do it again because people were reaching again. And back to the O. Oh, it's pretty much invariable for me that when I do a straw and then I do another vowel, that my vowel is clearer than it was before. That the straw phonation helps me clarify how I might be able to use my air better. Now, as you're going down, as you're going down to the bottom of that slide, do you feel like you're collapsing? Are you keeping your body activated all the way through it? Are you attentive to the whole length of that pitch? This is a short little exercise, right? These things matter, particularly when we're talking about a long phrase of music, like in Christmas Memories, when you've got the oohs that go up and they change pitch, and you have to stay with them all the way, right? So on this kind of little exercise here, are you staying with the ooh all the way? Or let's do an ah, right? So we're going to go ah. It would be really easy to let your body collapse on the way down. I will demonstrate it once, like not very pretty, right? And I let it all hang out, sort of, right? Got to keep it energized, got to stay in that ready place. And here. And here. And I'm thinking about spacing my mouth. While still keeping easy here. I have a little cracking up there. I'm going to do it with a straw. Suddenly smoother. And what I noticed is that I was starting to increase my amplitude as I was getting higher. I was increasing the amount of power I was putting into my singing, and that wasn't necessary. And it was actually counterproductive because it meant that my vocal cords were they distorted a little bit because I put a little too much power on them. So this is all the stuff that, you have time to learn all this. This is just the early days. This is the first investigations of this. You could be strawing from now on until whenever. All right, but let's move on. So when I think about some of these intervals that we were doing, it's in the context of songs, right? It's in the context of Christmas Memories or in Santa. Let's see. Okay, I may be a little bit jumpy tonight, jumping from one thing to another. I'll try to not leave you behind too much, but let's just do a little bit of Betelehemu for a moment, not because you need to practice it, and you don't even need to look at the music, because what we're going to be doing is the tenor and bass part, and sopranos and altos, please sing that part also. So you can choose between your B flat or your F. So it's Betelehemu, Betelehemu, or here it hits Betelehemu, Betelehemu. Now I'm not sure how that compares to the real tempo. It doesn't really matter. It's close. The point is, as I've been listening to some of the recordings of people singing, I'm hearing places where some singers are letting air escape. And I wanted to address that with everybody so you all can just practice this as an exercise for yourselves. So one person that I heard they released the le, actually more than one person. It was like this, Betelehemu. Do you hear how I let the air escape off of lehemu, and then I had to take a breath in? So it really disrupted my line, and it disrupted my technique. I'll do that one more time so you can hear it. So Betelehemu, or actually I didn't really let enough air go as happened. Betelehemu. So it's like a collapse in that ready place, if you will, a collapse in that sort of sense of liftedness and readiness. You need instead to have a feeling of suspension in that moment. Betelehemu again. Betelehemu. So in some ways, I think of that release as being up. Betelehemu, right? And I could stay up there forever in that moment of suspension that I have not gotten rid of my breath. I've not collapsed. I've not released my body. I've not tightened it either. Betelehemu. Let's do it together. Betelehemu. 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 Okay, I'm going to stop there. It's funny, I can't stop myself from doing 4 at a time and that always. It's just the way the structure is. I can't help it. Anyway, point is that I talked about how you can release on that le, right? That can happen. Also, it can happen on the end of the mu, right? I heard that happening with some singers. So that's another place where if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, or not really prepping yourself and being actively engaged in your air, it's easy to allow that to collapse in a way that doesn't help you, and then you have to recover before your next phrase. I can actually hear from time to time with a singer or another singer, I can hear kind of an aggregation or a gathering tension in people singing as they sing a phrase like that over and over again, and each time losing just a little bit of that ready place, losing just a little bit of that quality of ease, so that they get more and more tense as they go, and it gets harder and harder. So that's obviously not what we're looking for. You want to see if you can release each time so that it's easy. It's just as easy each time as it was the last. Let's do one more set of those. So you're thinking about that moment of suspension, and then coming back in, and then at the end of the phrase, release. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to give you a new B flat just to make sure. There's a B flat. There's an F. 1 and 2. Betelehemu. 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 Question, as you're singing Betel, are you feeling like you're releasing the sound but releasing it up and feeling energized and still carrying the energy on to the forward? That's the idea. And on the mu, same thing. Are you letting go of the air? Are you releasing? Can you feel any tension in your body releasing as you do that? Let's do it again. Here's the B flat. Here's the F. 1 and 2. Betelehemu. 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 Okay, good. Anybody have any comments or thoughts about what we've been working on so far? Okay, so one last thing on this little bit of exercise before we leave Betelehemu again, which, by the way, most people have recorded. A lot of people have recorded Betelehemus. Feel free, if you haven't done it yet, come bring them in. The water's fine. Actually, Patricia said that very thing. She was encouraging the tenors to jump in. She said, jump in, the water's fine. And actually, we have a fair number of tenors in the water now, so that's good. Thank you. Yeah, so, but regarding the Betelehemu, first thing, I would really like you all to practice writing Betelehemu, excuse me, because there are rather a variety of ways that people have been spelling this. I just put it in the chat again. And also a variety of ways that people have been saying it as well. So Betelehemu, there are 4 e vowels and an u, u. As you're singing, and here's the point, as you're singing, does that e vowel stay pretty much the same? Does it change? do you allow your mouth to change you to a different position, maybe gravity, maybe kind of slacking, maybe losing focus of the vowel? Betelehemu, Betelehemu. Go ahead. Betelehemu. Yes, moo like a cow. Betelehemu. I have heard a few people saying Betelehemu, which is not right. So, all right. Just wanted to point out in that little exercise, that little phrase, that there are these different things that you can focus on, that you can work on to improve and to make things better yet. Okay, going to leave Betelehemu, and I'm going to go to Santa. Let's go Santa. No, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. My mistake. My mistake. Let's do Christmas memories first. We'll do that. So at the beginning of Santa Gets a Suntan Down Under, we have that sort of barbershop-ish, or you can think of it as faux church hymn style. I think I was actually thinking I might want you all to sing it like this, you know, down under Santa gets, or whatever it is, you know, strike the pose. But the reason why is just it brings to mind certain styles of music which are appropriate, I think, when you think about that beginning segment of Santa. And of course, I'm speaking of Down Under Santa Gets a Suntan, which I refer to by Santa as Santa. But the reason why I point that out is because there's a certain style of singing, which when done right, has a resonance that's continuing, that stays steady, that doesn't die away, that doesn't change, the vowel doesn't change, the energy of the vocal line is maintained. And that's one thing that we're looking for, of course, when we sing this section of Down Under Santa Gets a Suntan. Because I can modify pitches and I can adjust things like that, but ideally we're working from a place where we're all singing in tune and we're all singing with the very best vowels we can and the best shapes to make those vowels. So that becomes something you think about now as you're preparing to record. We've got, I think about 6 people have recorded, maybe a few more than that so far. So most of you haven't recorded yet, which is great. And I wanted to work with you on things like this before we did that. Now, as I'm thinking about it, it's time for a break. So let's come back at 7:25 and we'll continue on with Santa. Oh, Ed, go ahead.
Well, if she thought of it, wife Jean might say, what would Julie Andrews do?
Aha, yes.
The British, full British, whatever
Yep.
version of this. I think that's where you're headed, at least a little.
Yeah, that's right. Anglican, there's a little bit of that in there too.
Anglican.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Actually, I'd be interested to talk to David Hamilton, the composer, and find out what his inspiration for that section was. What was he hearing in his head that caused him to write it in that way?
I almost hear some, well, going back to Julie Andrews, the heyday of the musical, not necessarily Rodgers and Hammerstein, but the very formal aria, and then to break into something snappy and,
Right.
and back. It was a stylistic thing back. I'm thinking mid-century.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's That's how I'm feeling it, kind of.
Yeah, the golden age of musical theater. Yeah. So Pat Fickert, do you want to do the resonance thing tonight then?
Sure, if you're up to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely up. Do you have your trumpet handy? There it is. All right. Wait,
That's a cornet.
I was just gonna. You know what? I'm okay. I'm proud of myself. I was gonna say that is that a trumpet? Is that something? It's a cornet. All right.
Cornet. It's a much more mellow tone.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that the British brass band instrumentation calls for cornet, not trumpet. At least a lot of the ones that I was running into last year when I was looking for rep for us. And in fact, David Hamilton's piece is called for cornet, not trumpet, if I remember.
That my husband's family is big into the Salvation Army, and especially the band part of the Salvation Army, and they're always cornets in there, so rather than trumpets. So
yeah. Cool. Well, we'll see. You know, it's possible that Zoom won't cooperate very well with the cornet in terms of, you know, it might. Actually, why don't we try right now? You mind blowing a note or two? Yeah.
What did you hear?
Well, I heard a little bit of a couple of the notes, but it also it immediately thought that you were
So Pat,
annoying noise.
Pat, see if you can find something that says enable original sound.
Yes.
Where is that?
It might be in the upper left-hand corner of your screen.
I have recording, meeting information.
Yeah, if it says turn on original sound.
I don't even see that.
Yeah, it could be. What version of Zoom do you have? Is it updated or is it an old version?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I have the version that I was using. I don't think I've done anything to it since I started using it, which was back in March.
Yeah, you might look and see if there are some updates, because this is something that has become increasingly popular, you could say it that way, that there are settings in Zoom that allow, well, see, what Zoom usually does is condense or compress the signal, especially when it's a long held note, and it makes it so that you can't hear the original quality of the tone, and it's reduced so that it's less bandwidth. It takes up less bandwidth.
I wasn't going to play too much anyway. Just
yeah. Well,
I just wanted the difference between this and this. I don't know if you can hear a difference. Can you hear a difference?
Yeah, and I think that's enough. So that'll probably be enough for you to riff on. But in general, if you're interested in sharing music over Zoom, check on that option to enable original sound. And I've just checked my own settings, and as host, I have it set up that should be a visible option for the members, for the participants, but it might take a little looking around.
What you can do, Adam, is under your audio settings, if you go, at least on mine, if I go down to the bottom, it says advanced. Went into the advanced, and that's where it had the enable original sound.
Yeah. Right. All right. So yeah, check that out, Pat. And then
I don't see anything on there that says anything like that.
Yeah, that for me, it's the tab that says mute. You know, that's the audio, and then there's another little caret, a little menu.
Hold on. Okay. What is it that I'm looking for?
You're looking for audio settings, and then you're looking.
I got audio settings. Okay.
Probably at the bottom of that, you're going to have advanced settings.
I'm looking. I'm on audio settings right now. Speaker, microphone.
Yeah, look all the way down at the bottom of that set.
Advanced. Yep. Okay.
And then enable original sound. Are you?
Yeah. Wow. All the way through.
Good. Okay. And so now you've set that. Go ahead and try the trumpet again. Let's see what happens.
For some reason, I'm not getting rid of this. Here, just a second. Okay, there we go. Oh boy, it's been a couple years since I played.
Okay, but that resolved it.
Could you hear that?
Well, I think it's a little different. What, Roger, what do you hear?
I can't hear
Well,
Roger.
I heard it and then it cut out because I think you started to talk, Adam, and you
Oh.
took over.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Okay.
I really only want to play one note.
Okay, that's fine.
I
Let
want
me
the
get
difference
there.
between this and this. This is what I
Okay.
want.
All right. We'll get there in a bit. Stephanie,
Yeah.
did you want to play a little flute also tonight, or if only if you're inspired, only if it makes sense to you to add to the conversation. This, for everybody, this is a presentation we're going to do about resonance a little bit later. Meanwhile, oh, George, go ahead. I see your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to say the difference between the trumpet and the cornet is that the trumpet is 2/3 cylindrical and 1/3 conical, and the cornet is 2/3 conical and 1/3 cylindrical, which means that the cornet has a mellower sound and the trumpet has a more piercing sound. That's why you find trumpets in orchestras and cornets in bands.
I see. Okay, and Candy has, what do you got there, Candy? Is that a cornet too?
This is a cornet from my old high school band days. I end up keeping my trumpet.
All right, good
and
for you.
I haven't blown in it. I haven't blown into it in years, but yeah, here it is.
All right.
I
Well,
played, Candy, I played regularly until I almost majored in this instrument. I played regularly until about 8 years ago. And then I was supposed to be playing in somebody's musical. I was supposed to be in the orchestra pit. And I ended up in surgery for my cancer. And it's been dusty ever since. I have to take it out. I think the last time I played was Easter 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Well,
last Easter, yeah.
This is what COVID is for. Get out those instruments and play.
That's right. That's right. Candy, I ended up muting you when you were blowing the trumpet there, so you're muted at the moment. But okay, well, I think it's wonderful when people are pulling out instruments and stuff like that. Okay, so that we'll come to that. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Meanwhile, we are on Down Under Santa Gets a Suntan, and we are focusing on a couple things with regard to the first couple pages of music, the slow section. As I was talking about before, I have an image in mind. We were talking about this while people were gone, about the sort of church music or even operatic, if you will, style of singing that's fully engaged and supported, that is legato and connected so that all the notes, it's not sausages, remember that? No closing off and opening back up. So if I was singing the tenor part, for example, of Down Under Santa Gets a Suntan, so it'd be like this. Down under Santa gets a suntan. So you may have noticed that I was really thinking about connecting the notes to each other. So it's not down under Santa gets a suntan. Do you hear the difference? In the latter way, I was not sustaining the tones with as much legato, as much connection, as much steadiness of amplitude, steadiness of volume and power. And as a result, it was kind of choppy and it didn't have the same flow. So as you're singing, and it's also harder to do that. It's actually more exhausting to sing those little bitty notes than just a long, steady phrase, as long as you got that comfortable place that you can sing from. If you're tight and tense, then it is going to be exhausting pretty much either way. But now, one of the things, and I'll just stick with the tenor part for now, for the moment, because there are, in each part, there are little traps, little spaces, little places that are going to be harder for you to maintain that steady line and that legato. And in the case of the tenors, it's that drop from the B flat down to the F, especially for the female tenors. But really for all of us, it's what you're thinking, down under. We got an N and a D. We got to change from to right? We got a vowel change. And of course, we have the drop down to the F. So all those things are going to conspire against you to encourage you to let go of your energy, let go of your continuity. Can you think instead about flowing through? Let's have everybody sing that tenor part just for now. Down under Santa, here we go. And you're going to think about connecting on to der and continuing on. 1, 2, 3. Down under Santa gets a suntan. Continue. There's no snow at Christmas. No snow. Okay, we'll stop there. So as you sang that down under Santa gets on, I forgot to mention that you got the jump back up from the F back up to the B flat. Santa gets. That's helped by that G. The G stops your sound for a moment there, gives you an opportunity to reset your tone, your tone quality, so that it's easier to hide if you have not been steady on your breath with that consonant. Sometimes consonants help you with a line, and sometimes consonants get in your way. So anybody want to comment on that phrase, or we just go on? There's no snow at Christmas. Right. Let's look at the altos part. So down. Here's a D. I'm going to do it in my range. So what's going to happen? Down under Santa gets a suntan, there's no snow at Christmas. You got that lovely little line there from Hamilton. Here we go, altos, 1, 2, 3, and down under Santa gets a suntan. There's no snow at Christmas. No snow. And that E natural, right, is this, I mean, you know it by now, but it's still a surprise. It still requires a little bit of extra energy going up to a higher note than you were singing before on the E flat, and the clarity that you're looking for of no snow, choosing exactly when that happens. Can we sing must no snow? Here's another C natural. Must no snow, 3 blind mice, those are the pitches. But we're going to put the consonants exactly in the right place. 2, 3, do it a couple times. Must no snow. Again, must no snow. One more time. Must no snow. For me, it's kind of like a little adventure. That S, I'm choosing exactly where I want to put that S. Must no snow, and where the snow and the no and the snow. It's, for me, I don't think of this as a song that is hard to sing and puts burdens on me as a singer. I think of it as a song that's fun and has little adventures in each line that make it fun to conquer each one of those and to sing it well, to sing it the best I can. So altos, going back a little bit, there's no, let's get that C again. There's no snow at Christmas. That little moving line on the quarter notes in measure 5, you're the most interesting thing that happens in that spot. Are you, altos, are you keeping a good quality vowel? It's not necessarily easy to sing on right, and not let that collapse. Let's try that. There's no snow, 2, 3. There's no snow at Christmas. No snow. And then in the, oh, I scooped up. Boy, I'd have to pitch correct that. So I wasn't ready. I forgot that the pitch goes up by a whole step there, and I wasn't ready for it, so I had to scoop. Okay, let's see, what else was I going to say? This goes for everybody, right? There's no snow at Chris. Remember, we've done some work on semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Those are the m's and the z's and the v's and all those kinds of sounded consonants. So this line is full of them, right? Which is an opportunity for you to check in with your singing and see how you're feeling and see if you're using your energy well, just like you do on a straw. So it's like, there's no snow at Christmas. It's for me, it's fun. So I'm curious if you're having luck feeling like you're feeling a continuous line of sound as you sing that phrase. If anyone wants to comment, jump in and raise your hand and say, hey, what about this? Okay, but meanwhile, we're going to go over to the sopranos. Now, sopranos, you're really kind of singing an alto line here, I think. Altos, isn't it true? You don't change your note forever. That's kind of an alto thing. So sopranos, it's your turn to get that, which means that when you do change pitch, you have to be ready for it. You have to have not checked out beforehand so that the change in pitch surprises you and you kind of do it awkwardly. So here's an F natural, I think. Let's see. Nope, that wasn't it. Down under Santa gets a suntan. There's no snow at Chris. That little interval there. There's no snow. Sorry, that was the wrong pitch. There's no snow at Christmas. The at, that vowel is so wide, so easy to spread. There's no snow, right? You can really get overboard on that vowel. So that's part of your challenge there, sopranos, because you have a small leap. You're jumping up from the F over the break into the A, right? Into that probably higher in your voice register at the same time that you're changing a vowel. That's a couple places to address to make sure that you're feeling steady on that. Let's go back to down under sopranos, and everybody sing this and everybody experiment with that. So it's down under Santa gets a suntan. That's the melody. 2, 3. Down under Santa gets a suntan. There's no snow at Christmas. No snow. Go on. In the South Pacific summertime. We'll stop there. Okay. When I want to go on after no snow, sometimes it's because the pitch changes, like for example, for the basses, right? They have the most major pitch change. Also the tenors moving from the C sharp up to the D. That's a tricky little thing to hear and to make sure that you're singing in tune. So that's why I'm suggesting you go on and you practice that transition with the next phrase in mind and doing that next phrase. Now, sopranos, down under Santa gets a suntan, there's no snow at Chris. Oh, I was thinking for everybody, when you sing the word suntan, right? It's kind of an odd syllable, tan, of suntan, to be sustaining long, but it's something you want to think about again. What's the quality of my vowel? Am I staying steady with that vowel and I'm feeling it live in my mouth as I sing? And do I make the N cutoff an active rhythmic event that keeps the line interesting, keeps it rhythmically accurate, prepares me to let go of the prior phrase and to let go of the used air, and the release is the new breath and I'm ready for the new phrase. Let's do that again. Everybody sing the soprano line and notice how long you sing suntan, with what quality, and how you release it. Down under Santa gets a suntan. 1, 2, 3. Down under Santa gets a suntan. There's no snow at Christmas. No snow. We'll continue. In the South Pacific summertime. We'll continue. The only white that's ever seen is cricket on the bowling green. All right, so I don't know how, I didn't feel all that great about how I sang that. I was like, oh, but and I think what I want to do actually is sing the only white that's ever seen. I want to sing that last phrase with the straw. Now, you all may choose whether you want to sing your own part or the soprano part, go either way, but let's do that with the straw. And I'm curious, can you make it through the phrase with one breath using the straw? Have you tried that? Have you been experimenting with that before? Because I recommend you do. So the O, that's the soprano's notes, and then the altos are the only white, and tenors the only white, and basses the only white. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I barely made it. I wasn't really thinking very well about my breath because I was trying to count for you and all that, but actually I still made it through. And I noticed that when I sang it the time before on the words, I really put in way too much effort once I got into the C sharp D area. I started to put too much pressure on my voice there. When I did it with the straw, suddenly I let go of that pressure. And so now I'm ready to sing it again, the only white, without the
Adam?
straw. Yep, go ahead. Who is that? Stephanie.
Never thought about that long phrase because many times I've done that where all of a sudden I realized I didn't have enough breath. At least with flute, when you take your breath to start, if you're not careful, you use too much at the beginning because you're full. And then as you go on, you're getting a little bit strained. So you just need to really control that breath at the beginning of the phrase.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the straw phonation, because if you are doing what Stephanie's talking about and you use a lot of your extra air, I mean, you kind of spend a lot of your capital right at the beginning, then you're going to see more bubbles. You're going to see a bigger lift of bubbles in there, which indicates that you're using too much air. So that's another thing that straw phonation can help you see. Let's do it twice through. Actually, I want to do it again with the straw, and then I want to sing it with the normal, with the text. As you're singing the text, be thinking about how smoothly connected all those consonants and vowels can be. The O, altos there, tenors, basses, the only 1, 2, and and there's a little fermata at the end, right? Now the own 1, 2, and the only white that's ever seen is cricket on the bowling green. All right. So, how are you finding this? Are you feeling like you're connecting? Are you feeling like you're sustaining? Are there places in the consonants and vowels that are throwing you off? Have you identified? I know this is a lot of questions. This is partly for your future thinking. As you're singing, are you aware of places that are traps for you personally? Consonants or vowels that are hard for you particularly and therefore cause you to lose focus, to lose your breath? Is that happening? These are the kinds of things that this kind of rehearsing is an opportunity to explore for yourself and to find out. So meanwhile, all of this together is meant to give you a way of thinking about this beginning section of the song and approaching it with real thought and care and as much physical ease as possible. Let's go back to the beginning of Down Under Santa and let's sing all the phrases. You can sing it in your own range. I'll sing, well, I might switch from part to part. I'm not sure. So we didn't do you. We got to do you. We got to do the basses. So down under Santa gets up. Remember we worked on that transition, that octave jump there. And then there's no snow at Christmas. Leading up there goes up to the top. No snow. Hardest for the basses. No snow. That fifth jump down there while you're being controlled on your N and your S and all that stuff. And then in the South Pacific, that's too high. Anyway, point is you got a bunch of little traps in there, basses. Let's find out how it goes. Let's do it with straw. Everybody should try singing that bass line and see what it feels like for you. See what you can learn from that. So that's a B flat, down under Santa gets up. No wonder I'd raise the key. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that felt pretty good. How'd the basses feel about that? Did it work out for you? Anybody want to comment? Okay, good, thumbs up, that's good. All right, so now everybody's on board. Maybe you already did your own part last time, but let's do it again. You choose straw phonation or singing on consonants, or going back and singing on syllables, or going back and forth is totally fine too. So you maybe have your straw handy. All right, so down, there's a B flat, tenors. No, that's not a B flat. Down, there's a B flat. I know, Stephanie, you couldn't, you were just about ready to play it. There's a B flat and the tenors, alto, soprano. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Down under Santa gets a suntan. There's no snow at Christmas. No snow. In the South Pacific summertime, the only white that's ever seen is cricket on the bowling green. Now, one of the things that we can't really do here is hear how the harmony fits together, and how especially this modulation at the end there, how that shifts in such a surprising but fun way. Stephanie, would you mind playing The Only White That's Ever Played Green? And let's just listen to that once again. You hear that harmony once again. Oh, okay, and you're muted, Stephanie, FYI. So mute, Stephanie, you're still muted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which part though?
The beginning of Santa, sorry, not the beginning, the measure 11.
Right. The all parts?
All parts, yeah, let's hear that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea. Okay, so thank you, Stephanie. I just wanted to have that in people's ears. Yeah, and then with that, okay, good. So moving on, talking about the other section of Santa, the fast-moving stuff. So I've talked about rhythmicizing the cutoffs and making those into events, rhythmic events that are part of the whole, that aren't afterthoughts, and they're not well, let's just say what they are. They give you the opportunity to say exactly when something is happening, exactly when the close of a consonant happens. And there are a few of those in this piece that, and I've already heard with some of the tracks that have turned in that those consonants aren't necessarily always in the right spot. So I'm encouraging people to think about that and practice that as they prepare to record. So for example, and barbecues a light, cause, and the T of a light, right on the second beat, right? So you know exactly where it's going to be. And barbecues a light. Can you all do that together? Let's do it 3 times. 3, 4. And barbecues a light. Again, and 1. And barbecues a light. One more time, and 1. And barbecues a light. Right? So, and it may be that you didn't necessarily catch up with me. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, and barbecues a light. One more time, and barbecues a light, 'cause down under Santa gets a suntan. Now, when you sing suntan, it's so short, you really don't have to worry about those consonants or the length of the note, as long as you're not singing it too long, which I haven't heard anybody do. So suntan immediately goes to the end. It's a quick cutoff. Same thing with days are warm. Well, actually, that's a little different because you can give me a good shadow vowel. Days are warm. Let's do that. Ready? 3, and days are warm. Days are warm. Days are warm. You hear the shadow vowel, right, that I'm putting on after the M to make that M cutoff really clear and rhythmicized. Days are warm. Okay? But with suntan, like I was saying, you don't really have time to worry about that. However, Rudolph puts cream on his nose, right? His nose, all of those great consonants there, but you got to finish with a nose, with a Z of nose in the right spot. Rudolph puts cream on his nose. Again, Rudolph puts cream on his nose. One more time. Rudolph puts cream on his nose. And if your his has a lot of Z-ness in it, that's okay with me. It'll add to the character, I think. We've talked about it's off to the beach. Throw off your clothes. Off to the beach. Throw off your clothes. Off to the beach. Throw off your clothes. Okay, so now going back to the beginning of this verse. There's no snow at Christmas, to that spot. As you're singing that, we talked earlier, Ed talked about that ready place, right? And how it can take a little bit of motion, a little bit of impetus to get going. And that's especially true when you're jumping on a moving train, which this is, this section here. So it's like, ba-ba-da-dee-da-da-da, there's no snow at Christmas. If you try to leap from like a standing still position onto that moving train, you're gonna have a hard time with that. So you wanna feel, what's the tempo, what's the meter, how do you get there? 1, 2, 3, there's no snow at Christmas. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, there's no snow at Christmas. And where's that breath? 2, 3, there's no snow at Christmas. It's maybe the fourth beat of the measure. 1, 2, 3. There's no snow at Christmas. That can work. Maybe it's earlier, and that's okay. That can work too. Hang on, Marty, just a second. So if I'm like 1, 2, there's no snow at Christmas, I can take the time, I can take more time to breathe, to prepare for that phrase if I want to, just as long as I don't let the time that I'm taking slow my sense of the rhythm, slow my readiness to jump in at the right time. I'll do that one more time. So it'd be like, if I was breathing starting on the third quarter note of the measure, it'd be like 1, 2, there's no snow at Christmas. And I know there are some choral conductors who absolutely swear by taking that much time or more to breathe in before a phrase. Maybe you might breathe in the whole measure. So it'd be like, ba, 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 ba. There's no snow at Christmas. You can take that much time to breathe too. If it feels good and it's easy for you, you won't always be able to do that because not every phrase leaves that amount of time to breathe. But if you can do that, you might find that helpful. Marty, what was your question or thought?
Well, I just noticed that I'm putting emphasis on there's no snow at Christmas, and you're not emphasizing the downbeat.
Uh-huh.
And really, no snow is
No
pretty important.
Yes, that's true. Let's see. So can you sing it to me the way you're singing it?
There's no snow at Christmas in.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now that particular time I said that it was so much emphasis on no that it made no just a little slow and a little behind. I would probably have to adjust that editing wise if you recorded that track that way. So there's no snow at Christmas. Let's do it again. Count us in, Marty. Here's what I'd like you to do, just as your exercise and for us all to hear. If you were to count in like 1, 2, there's no snow, and still doing that no emphasis that you're interested in, what would that sound like? You're muted. So
Maybe I
don't.
should stay
Oh,
muted.
that's all right. Well, it's okay.
That's okay.
Let me just hear what you got.
1, 2, 3. There's no snow at Christmas in the South Pacific summertime.
Yeah. Okay, good. So in that case, your no snow was more rhythmically accurate that time. So I'm not sure if you changed anything necessarily in the way you were thinking of it, but maybe you did. But anyway, that time was more successful at giving the emphasis and yet still being in time. So my priority is the rhythmic accuracy. So I think that's what I would prefer somebody to emphasize, though I don't mind the idea that no is important in this phrase and that it could get a little bit of extra emphasis, just as long as that doesn't make you late for the rest of the phrase. So thank you for asking. Mark, I see your hand, excuse me.
Yeah, actually, to me, it was sounding better to put a little emphasis on the word snow there. There's no snow at Christmas. It helps me kind of shoot through like
there's no snow at Christmas
on the moon or something.
Well,
there's no snow at Christmas in the South.
well, what I see you doing actually when you do that, the first couple times it wasn't really very well in time, and then you improved on that. But the thing about emphasis that so often can happen is that you focus so much on that emphasis that the things that happen afterwards or even before suffer. So, and that was happening for both you and for Marty a little bit there. Now, when I think about how snow is connected to the next word, snow wet, right? There's a natural opening. It's like, think about it this way. Sometimes we can think of our voices as being like a garden hose. So think of a garden hose that puts out water and it doesn't have any like sprayer nozzle on that, and it just comes out at a certain volume. And then if we put a garden nozzle on it and we reduce the aperture, then it comes out faster. So in this case, snow is a reduced aperture for our voice. It's a smaller size, and then at is open, snow at. So there's a natural possibility of speeding there. There's no snow at Christmas. Do you see what I'm getting at here? So if you do put emphasis on snow, but you still think of the connection to the rest of the phrase, then that can help you to not be out of time on that. But I'm not really necessarily, I'm encouraging people to put emphasis on snow. I'm just saying if that was something that you were trying to do, that would be a way to deal with the problems that come up. Because if you put too much emphasis, there's no snow at Christmas, partly because of the pitch change, it's not easy to do that and still remain accurate with pitch and time. So in a way, what I've suggested about the vowel change there is more like, if you were insistent that it be that way as a soloist or something, and I was saying, well, here are the things that you can do to make that more effective, that's kind of where I'd be coming from. In this case, I'd say reduce that emphasis on snow just a little bit. So, all right.
Is the emphasis going to be on the syncopation? If you put the emphasis on one of those earlier beats, you're going to be late on that Christmas, and it
very
needs
possibly
to be spot on.
Yeah, that's very possible, because that's the first moment of syncopation in the song. There's no snow at Christmas, right? Which puts emphasis on the word Christmas and suddenly introduces the idea that this is jazzy or a different style of music, that we've switched entirely from the sort of hymn church music quality or barbershop that we had before. Okay, so anyway, the point is you feel the momentum and you maintain the momentum and you go with it. And that's true also when we get to the bridge section. Let's jump to that at the moment. That means the bridge is the part between the verses. So page 29, we don't mind tradition. What is each phrase, what's the word I want? Stephanie, what's the word that is before, anacrusic.
Yeah.
Anacrusic, right. So the crucis is the beat, right? So 1, 2, 3, we don't mind tradition. 1, 2, 3. And now we've got our own. 1, 2, 3. You'll still see the Christmas tree. 1, 2, no anacrusis. Shining, twinkling in our homes, sorry. All right, let's go back and do that. Again, the point of this is this. Even when we did our performance last year on this, not everybody was always clear on what each of those notes, those pickup notes, was. And so there was a little bit of fuzz around that, if you will, rhythmic fuzz of people coming in too early or too late, or just being kind of unsure in general about what that rhythm should be. So I'm encouraging you to work on that and develop a really strong sense of how each one of those phrases is different, how each one of them is distinct from each other. We don't mind tradition. 2, 2, 3. And now we've got our own. 1, 2. You'll still see the Christmas tree twinkling in our homes, and they're homes, right? I've put the M and the Z of homes in a very rhythmicized quality at the end of top of 30 last measure. Ed, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Is this a bit more Anglican like the beginning?
You know,
I believe that was your word.
Yes.
Square edges.
Yes. And for some reason, I find myself drifting towards a little bit of a bad English accent whenever I sing this section of the song. I just can't seem to help it, actually. So, you know, there's something also sort of posed about it. You know, like it's sort of a bit of musical theater here or something. If I had the opportunity, I'd like put you in groups on the risers talking to each other. I think we did that actually. We don't mind. Let's do that together. So combine that issue of what the length of the notes are and being certain about that with the kind of odd harmony that Hamilton has chosen to use here. Those two bits of ambiguity together can make it so somebody's like, I just don't really understand this section, but I think it's fun, actually. You know, I think everything's fun. Let's do, here's an A flat. So sopranos, we don't mind tradition. Altos, we don't mind tradition. Tenors, we don't mind tradition. Basses, we don't mind tradition. You got it. Remember that the basses and the sopranos are in unison here. And then the altos and the tenors have the interesting crunchy harmonies. All right, let's do it. So you're thinking about entrances at the right spots, correct pitches, and the cutoffs that have clarity and are exactly where they're supposed to be. All right, 1, 2, 3. We don't. I'm sorry. I lost track. I wasn't sure what part I was supposed to sing. Anybody have a request? Alto, tenor, bass, soprano? I'll sing whatever I want. Here we go. So one measure. 1, 2. We don't mind tradition. 1, 2, 3. And now we've got our own. 1, 2. You'll still see the Christmas tree. 1, 2, 3. Twinkling in our homes. 1, 2, 1, 2. You'll hear. Oh, you know what? Stop for a minute, because the thing is, what you have to hear is the modulation there at the bottom of page 30. Stephanie, can you play the top of 30 last measure, Twinkling in Our Homes, until about you'll hear Christmas at the bottom of the page? And you're muted, Stephanie. So it's nice for you to play it, but it's better if we can hear it.
I was unmuted. Okay, here we go. So.
Okay, and we stop. So thank you, Stephanie. Now I'm going to go back and do that again a little bit, because if you're listening, now again, on the practice guides, I sing the pitch at you and probably you won't have any trouble hearing that and getting the right pitch. But again, this is something for your edification, for being able to hear a pitch, to hear a modulation, a shift in the key of the piece so that you know how to pick up the new pitch that you're about to sing. So when Stephanie plays just the right hand top line from the bottom of 61, could you play that scale going up and then back down? Right? So that measure 62 has established a new key center for us. Ba-da-dee-da-da-da-da-da. But we're not singing in E flat. We're singing the fifth above that. So it's one thing, it's a good start to hear the transition and hear where the new key center is, which is that E flat there. But you also need to hear the fifth above that, hear the B flat, which is the pitch that you're about to sing. So here's what I'd like to do now. Stephanie, I'd like you to play the same thing, and don't, after you come to the resolution on the E flat, the first note in measure 63, stop and don't play anything else for us. And everybody else in your homes, sing the B flat for yourself. Okay, here we go, Stephanie, go ahead. There's that B flat, okay? Hopefully you were singing that note. And of course you see that everybody is singing that B flat. We come in on unison, so ideally we're all singing that exact B flat. One more time, going back a little bit farther, let's go to the top of page 29. And actually, let's see, do I have a Santa showing? Yes, I do. So Stephanie, I'm going to shift so that I can control things here. And I'm going to go to you'll still see the Christmas tree. Let me just check here. Oh, okay, so I'm going to share my screen for you, everybody, and we'll go with the recording for the Logic Pro. Okay, so can you see my Logic Pro? Give me a hand. Okay, good. Let's see where we at. There's no snow. Okay, that's not where we want to be. We want to be farther on. I think it's here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. We don't mind tradition, and now we've got our own. You'll still see the Christmas tree twinkling in our homes. 1, 2, 1, 2. You'll hear Christmas songs about sleigh rides in the snow. But Christmas time down under is different, 'cause you know. All right, I'm gonna stop there. Okay, so how do you feel about that? Were you singing the rhythms correctly and the phrases correctly and all that? Felt like you were not scooping up to pitches, you were finding those pitches at the first moment of each onset. Those are all goals that I'd like each one of you to have as you're making your recordings. Now, if everything's not perfect, you know, that's okay. Everything's not perfect. But these are the things that you work on to improve to get as good as you can. Okay. Now, before, I'd like to do a little bit of Christmas memories. By the way, I forgot to tell you that the video click tracks are ready and they're on the website, so you can record Christmas memories anytime. When you do, if I don't get the chance to rehearse much of this today, just sing those oohs with as much freedom and ease as you can. And we'll come back to the ding-dongs in the 6, 8, 9, 8 section. But first, Pat shared a video. Pat Fickard, we have many Pats. Pat shared a video with me about resonance, which is amazing. And she and I and Stephanie have had a little bit of a conversation about it. So I think I'm going to just show you the video first, and then Pat will have a few comments to add, and I'll have a few comments to tie it into what we're talking about in terms of vocal resonance. So resonance, actually, Stephanie, can I put you on the, or Pat, can I put you on the hot seat to give us a definition of what resonance is?
Oh, wow.
Well,
Pat,
just
what do you have?
simply, the simplest way I used to do it with my physics class was, you have something that's vibrating and it creates another vibration into something that's got the right resonance sympathy to it. So I used to take two tuning forks, both at 256 hertz, which is middle C, and this one would just be sitting there, and this one I would tap. So you'd hear the ring. And then after a few minutes, just a few seconds, you turn this one off, and now you're seeing that this one is now producing a sound, even though you never tapped it, because this one now is resonating from the vibrations over here. All musical instruments work on an initial vibration and then resonance. It's air resonating or the wood resonating or whatever it is. That's why I brought my trumpet, because cornet. Because you start the sound in here, it's a pretty ugly sound. It's pretty nasty sound. But when you put it into the cornet, where you have all of this air and brass, you get the resonance of all that stuff based on that thing. So it sounds like, I hope this sounds better, by the way. And you have a much fuller, deeper sound because you have all that resonance. Now I can only get a couple of tones with this length of tubing. I can change the pitch by changing my vibrations. I can't get in between. If I wanted the in between, I have to change the length of my tubes by putting down some of my valves like this, and then I can get other lengths. Now, with and you want to say anything to that, Stephanie? Is there anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, or did you want to see the video first?
I think-
But before you see the video, let me just say this. There's a really great experiment everybody can do who has a piano, and that is if you put your foot down.
I was going to do that. Okay.
You put your foot down on the sustaining pedal so that you're freeing up all the strings, and then you sing into it, and then you stop. The piano will sing back to you, and it'll sound just like your voice. But if you play the trumpet into it or the cornet into it and stop, it'll come back sounding like a cornet. And that's because what's happening inside your piano with all those strings is it's picking up your fundamental tone, but also all of those overtones. And that's what makes different instruments sound different from each other. Well, you're going to see a table, and you're going to see a guy stroking on the table. So he's creating the vibrations. And then you'll see the table is vibrating. You get the resonance patterns that go through the table. And what's happening is the sand that he puts on top of the table begins to settle. It settles into the places of the table where it's not vibrating. We call those the nodal lines. You're seeing the nodal portions of the table in there. And then when he changes the pitch, he takes something, a different resonance, you'll get a completely different pattern. But the table is vibrating so consistently, it makes it just a gorgeous, absolutely stunning.
Okay, so we'll go to that right now. So I'm sharing my screen, everybody, and we'll go to, excuse me, here. Oh no, try again. Uh-oh, that's not good.
No.
Maybe too many people want to watch it. Let's try again. Okay, good.
Can you hear him? Will you be able to hear him?
Can you hear anything?
When he strokes, you'll hear a pitch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can hear. You actually see the sand jumping where the table is vibrating.
So there you have it.
All day long.
All right. So anything else you want to add about Pat or Stephanie about what we're seeing so far?
Well, it has to be a pure sound, you know, and that's how I think we would relate it to our voices. The more pure your sound is, it gets to be like a pure sine wave. And when you have that, you get what Pat mentioned it briefly, the overtones, right? Like what I thought she was going to say on the piano, if I put the pedal down and play a low C, the very lowest C, if the piano's really in tune, and if somebody puts their ear inside the piano, they'll hear the middle C, they'll hear another octave up, they'll hear the fifth above that, and then they'll hear a third and maybe some half steps above that. So like Pat said, every instrument has different overtones, and this is visually, we're seeing it line up. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And other thing, Pat, from you?
I was just saying, this table is unique, I think, because it's vibrating in such a perfect, you know, violins do that. The part of the tone of the violin, it comes from the wood that's vibrating, you know, like that. That's
you can actually find you can find images that show the patterns of the nodal, what were you calling them, Pat?
Nodal lines,
the nodal lines. You can see patterns on the back of a violin, for example, or on a drum set. You can see it on certain drums. Anyway, but I wanted to tie this into one other thing that's related to what we're doing. And to do that, I'm going to use Eric's singing. Eric Jeffords, our soloist on the Christmas Memories. I don't know if you necessarily clued into this when you were listening to him sing, but he is using classical technique, vocal technique, although I asked him to tone down the intensity a little bit, but he still has the focus of tone and the intensity that causes overtones to be present with his fundamental pitch that he's singing. So when in classical voice training, that's what we're heading for. That's one of the main goals of classical voice training, is that you teach people how to basically get out of the way and make enough freedom and open space for resonance so that the overtones that will naturally be present with a given fundamental pitch can be heard and can become part of the color of somebody's voice, which is why you hear tenors, for example, especially operatic tenors, having this ringing, heroic quality. It's those overtones that you're also hearing in combination with the fundamental they're singing that cause that quality to be present in the hall. And of course, acoustics of concert of opera halls are built with that in mind, that they're encouraging those overtones to be present in that acoustic space. But I wanted to show you, we can get a little bit of another visual here by looking at Eric's recording, by watching his recording through an equalizer through Logic Pro. So I'm going to share my screen once again, and I'm going to go over to that and go to Christmas Memories here. Okay, so I don't have any of my tracks. They're all muted, as you see. So all we're going to hear right now is Eric's singing and Stephanie's playing. And as we look at here, I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to open up the EQ look of it. So now, first thing I want to show you is, so he's got a lot of fundamentals that are right about in this range, okay? And then you're going to see some more, sorry, Pat, you might need to jump in here and give me some what we're seeing. There's a fundamental pitch that's about here.
That's usually the strongest.
Okay, but what's interesting about the way he's singing is a lot of his overtones are just about as strong as his fundamental. And you're going to even see some up in here. There's actually a place that's 4,800 hertz, I think, somewhere about in this vicinity, that is called the tenor's formant. And it's the place where if a tenor, and George has this quality too in his singing, I've heard it many times. So when you have that ping in your tone, you have these other overtones present in the sound, and that becomes overall part of the effect of the voice. I'm going to continue on with Eric.
As we waited for that morning light, dreams
Go ahead just a bit more. So this is the area where his fundamental pitch is. You hear the S's are up here, the sibilants. Notice how it hangs on, still steady, okay? So a couple things on just that last little bit. When he's saying for Christmas Day in that spot, did you see how active all of these overtones were? There was a lot of overtones ringing in sympathy with his fundamental pitch because he had that open space, that resonant quality, that freedom in his technique that allows that to ring. And so we can see it on the spectrum, on the waveform, the spectrum, whatever. Which is that, Pat? What are we looking at here?
I'm not quite sure. I lost track
Okay.
of what you're saying here.
Okay. Did I make sense? You want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
So-
beautiful picture. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it one more time. Just that little spot there. Notice how he sustains. And when he sustained, it was pretty consistent. There was the fundamental and there was an overtone here and there was an overtone up here that stayed steady. Now, if he'd sung Christmas Memory, and let it kind of die away, you would not have seen that on the screen. You would not have seen that representation because all those overtones would not have been present. So, and also one other thing I wanted to mention, when he sings the word Christmas Day, watch what happens when he sings the word day, because you're going to see a change in overtones here, because as we change the shape of our mouth, we're changing the shape of our instrument, and as a result, different overtones are encouraged. That's why it feels different when you're singing an ah from an e. It has a different quality to it, and you can see that on the screen as he sings this. Yeah, so he's saying day changed, it shifted, the overtones changed a little bit. Did you see that? And one more time. And even though he has a little bit of vibrato going on there, it's still a steady quality overall. Okay, so I hope that was interesting and informative, and maybe we can figure out some way to apply it for you. I mean, the long-term goal for any singer, in my opinion, would be that you would be going for a quality where you have that kind of continuity to your tone, A, continuity, B, resonance, so that you can get some of those overtones as well. Now, the thing about a lot of pop singers right now, they don't get those overtones because they don't have that training and they don't have that quality of resonance. Some people do. Johnny Cash, for example, he had resonance in spades. But, other singers don't necessarily have that. They add that in the studio, or maybe it's just not part of their sound at all. Other people, like, for example, I can't remember what her name is, the woman who sang Frozen, let it go, she's got resonance in spades as well. And that's part of what makes their voices exciting to people. And for you, as you're developing your skills as singers and developing your quality of tone, that's one of the things that you can look for in the long run are you singing with a quality that's easy, that's supported, that has room and space for those resonant qualities to emerge as you're singing. And that's what we're looking for. All right, questions on that? Stephanie, you got something to add?
Well, and also, isn't some of this another part of the picture as far as the resonance is the tuning and the focus of the sound?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I just know if the sound isn't focused, it's so diffuse that the overtones aren't going to be in there.
Yeah.
And yet, when you go the other extreme and try to narrow down your sound on the flute, you get a really thin sound that doesn't have the overtones. You have to direct it. I think it's about the direction of it and the projection as well. The projection and the support. It all goes together, I guess.
Yeah, it does. And you may recall in rehearsals in the past, when we've been together, we've worked on tuning vowels. And part of the reason why we tune vowels is so that that set of overtones that we were just looking at with Eric, that set of overtones is common from voice to voice. And that way we'll have sets of overtones that are ringing in sympathy, which helps us hear better and helps us tune better. These are things that we can apply when we get back together and sing together. So now I want to do a little bit of Christmas memories before we leave today. So let's go back to your first entrance on Christmas memories, your first ooh spot. And I'm looking, of course, at the new score, not the old score. By the way, when you maybe you've already done it, maybe it's too late, but I was going to suggest that if you could have pages 3 and 4 open on one view, so you don't have to have that page turn after Gloria in excelsis Deo, so you don't have to do that. It might be worth printing out another page just so you have that. All right, meanwhile, we're back at the ooh. Now, going back to the things that we worked on at the beginning of the rehearsal, where is your pitch when you start an ooh? Is it right where you intend it to be on the actual pitch? Is it sliding from below? You want to not have it slide from below. You want to not have it modify and change as you're singing. You want to keep it steady and in tune with what you're hearing. So I'm going to use logic and I'm going to jump back in to share that with you so that we can use that. I'm going to close this down. Thank you. Uh-oh. Where are we at here? Close that down. Okay. And I'm going to unsolo this so we can hear everybody. And I'm going to do this. Okay. So that's our first entrance. So just so we get a sense of where we are harmonically. All right, and I'm going to stop, even though I'm sure you just started singing and you're saying, don't stop. So never fade away, right? So basses is one step down from there. And those D, D, right? So there's your B flat. C flat and an F for the altos, and a basses is here. Okay, we'll go back just a little bit. What's the quality of your first ooh? If you want to do it on straw, that might be a good idea too. Okay, here we go. So I'm curious, did you feel like you were able to sing all the way through that phrase with one breath? Did you need to take an extra breath in between? I'm going to jump ahead and we'll go to coming home. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. One, 2, 3, holding. All right. So going back to the coming home spot again, what I felt occasionally when I was singing this to record these tracks is that I would have the k, and then the ah, calming, was not right behind it. It was not ready, and there was a disruption in my voice. So ka, Ka. It has partly to do with how much pressure you put on your voice to make that ka, that C sound. And it needs to be not so much pressure that you can't move past it into the vowel. Ka. Everybody choose your own pitch. That's the basses. Tenor. Wait. So I lost track of it. Where's the A flat? I mean B flat. There's the B flat for the sopranos and the tenors, and the F for the altos. Start 3 times on calming. We'll do it separate. 1, 2, 3. Ka. Again. Ka. Once again. Coming home. Coming home. Ran out of air there, but close. Okay, so as I was releasing the coming home right here, listen to this. Right in that spot there. Every time, I really can say that I did this every time I was singing these recordings, I let go of the phrase. I released and had freedom in that release of the prior phrase that allowed me to breathe in a comfortable way for the upcoming phrase, that allowed me to sing all the way through with one breath. So see if you can feel that release, not only here, but also in the first verse when it's the ooh spot. Let's do that again. So you're going to feel a release between the first coming home and the second one. Easy. All right, and I'm going to go on. So, sopranos, if you listen, you're welcome to listen, you're welcome to sing, but notice if you listen how legato I sang this part. I don't chop in between verses, in between words. I carry the tone across. That's true for everyone.
So that back there. I had different things.
Okay,
Like,
stop. Hang on, hang on. Okay, stop. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, excuse me to stop so abruptly. As I mentioned before, that ooh, with the sopranos just had, not everybody needs to sing that. If you have the ability to sing it freely and lightly and fairly quietly, that will be sufficient for a few people to do that. I don't know if you caught what I was saying, and I realize we're over time here. I'm going to stop very shortly here. Sopranos in particular, I was saying to you, Gloria in excelsis Deo. You could have a tendency to want to go, Gloria in excelsis Deo. Different style, right? And that's not what I'm looking for. And I found that when I sang with that legato quality the first time I did, when I sang that on all the tracks, that the effect still had the sprightly quality that I was looking for, but it also had the continuity of tone that I was hoping for. So by staying legato on that phrase, it was successful in both of my goals, in both the sprightly quality and the legato quality, a continuous tone through that phrase. And that goes also for the other people singing, the alto, tenors, and bass. Although I do want, on your oohs, I put in Ds, do, to clarify where those pitch changes happen. So you can give a little bit of a point, a little bit of an accent to each one of those pitch changes. So like the altos, it might be do, just a light little D, not a lot. And then the next phrase, though, Gloria in excelsis Deo, thinking very legato once again there. So I think that that is going to help also with your breath support, that the less you have a tendency to kind of slam certain notes, the more likely you're going to be able to sustain throughout the whole phrase on one breath. When you get to the ding, dong, ding, I'm going to go back and share one more time because I want you to hear how I keep the quality of resonance going on the spots, okay? Let's go back in there real quick and hear one last little spot. So here's the ding dongs. And actually, I'm going to stop just enough to say you can actually visually see that the tone is continuing. It's not stopping. There's a spot there. It stopped a little bit there, but mostly it continues through on all these voice parts. That's what I'm looking for from you also. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop again. And then the last ooh is just like the ones we sang before. And in terms of timing, hopefully the conducting on the video click track will make that very clear for you. Does anybody have any questions? And maybe I'll address them next week on Christmas memories. You have time, you have a good couple weeks for Christmas memories. Ideally, Betelehemu by next week, Solstice Song by next Tuesday also. We'll consider those last calls for those songs. And Santa Gets a Suntan and Christmas Memories, we'll call the December the 1st, probably will be about the last call for those for recordings. Okay, so I would say we are done. Oh, birthday, what fun. Okay, we got to sing happy birthday. Who is a November birthday? Brian, I see, and Marianne. And is there anyone else? Wave big. Okay, so Brian and Marianne. Oh, and Marilyn. Marilyn, you're a November birthday too? Okay. Stephanie, what's a good key for happy birthday?
F.
F. Okay, happy birthday. So maybe we'll all sing together. Here we go. 1 and 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brian and Marilyn and Marianne. Happy birthday to you. We can sort of tune that last chord. That sort of worked. Otherwise, for December birthdays, we're going to have to figure out another different, interesting way that maybe is. Oh, but that's fine. So thank you all. I enjoyed tonight, and see you next week. Sing pretty.
Adam.
One interesting thing, Adam, in barbershop.
Thank you.
In barbershop.
Hang on, Brian. Hang on, Brian. Just wait for a second. We'll have people say farewells, and then tell me after, if you will.
Thank you, Adam. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Debbie.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Pat.
Okay.
Bye.
See you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Hi, Pat.
We'll see you another night.
One
All
of
right.
the interesting things about in
Good night,
barbershop
Adam.
singing
Good night.
is they taste those overtones.
Right.
They they focus on the vowels and on the pitches and everything, and I think it's something to do with the sevenths as well. Those seventh chords.
Yeah.
You hit one of those just right, and you can fill an auditorium with notes that no voice ever hit. It's absolutely amazing to feel it when it happens, but you got to be really good to really hit them.
Mm-hmm.
When we lived in New Jersey, we took my students to kind of do Avery Fisher Hall, and to visit, and they had all the sound engineers come through and build that thing in. And when we were going through it, they were tearing the whole thing apart because it was just dead in that auditorium, and they turned it back into like Carnegie Hall. What they hadn't done is make the platform itself a sounding board. And that's what they had to do and go back to. And then the sound improved immensely.
That's
All the
great.
electronic in the world just wouldn't do it. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that's fun. That's interesting. There's a book that I read from time to time when I want to be irritated called Lies My Music Teacher Taught Me. Um, which, the author has an axe to grind, obviously, but he talks about tuning in some interesting ways. And he talks about there's a quality that he's experienced with jazz choirs where they tune, and it's kind of like, in a way, being part of a cult, if you will. Sorry, don't mean to be too flippant about this, but the bottom line is when people feel the quality of a tuned chord, it's like something you all experience together. And it's a magical quality. And the people who've not experienced it before suddenly become enlightened, as it were, by hearing that.
Yeah, there was a trend. I don't know if it's still continuing. I haven't been in this kind of a theater in quite a while. There was one of the new theaters in San Francisco had all sorts of draperies, for a better term, banners that hung all over the thing, and they could raise and lower them to do different things to the acoustics. But for some things, they just had to take them all and put them up in the back up in the ceiling because it was getting in the way. You lose something when you either reflect or don't reflect in the wrong way.
Yeah.
You get it into a nice place. We were talking about resonance, and the best experience I had with it recently is we've been remodeling a house we have up on Lake Whatcom. The main room is 30 by 20 with a 14-foot ceiling, all hard surfaces. You walk in there and whistle. It's a different sound than in any place else. It's wonderful.
Yeah. It's fun to tune that too.
Oh yeah, I want to get a quartet and sing in there. Just to
there you
see
go.
what it feels like.
There you go. So, Chris, Judy, Marianne, thoughts, or you got something to?
I have a question. I haven't turned in my recordings because I don't have earphones, but I have these. But I'm getting earphones on Saturday.
Okay.
I had to totally replace my computer, my printer, everything. So my daughter said, I'll buy you earphones because you need those kind, right? Those earphones to record. These won't work. These,
Well, those can work. Yeah, you see, Chris has got those.
Huh? Yeah. These will work.
Chris, you want to unmute and give your 2 bits?
These things. I have these. They're new.
Chris, you need to unmute.
So I've done all my recording with this. I do this on Tuesday nights, and they're far cheaper and they're really easy to use.
Oh, okay. I have these.
Yeah.
And as long as you can't hear what you're hearing, as long as what's in your earphone stays in your ear, it doesn't come out into the room.
Like
it's
if you
probably fine.
If you set those little earbuds to a really high volume, you probably wouldn't do this, but if you did that and there was enough bleed through coming out of your ear, that wouldn't be ideal. It probably wouldn't be a big deal actually, but that's the kind of thing that we're avoiding with those. And in fact, really this kind of earphone is more likely to bleed than those because there's so much more coming out of these. But so you're fine with what you got there. That should work out fine.
Oh, good. Okay, then I was just practicing with these, but all right. Well, I'll get my recordings in this week, at least 2 of them.
Sounds good.
Okay,
that sounds fine.
Sorry, I had technical difficulties, so
yeah.
I just wanted you to look at. Okay, thank you.
It's fine. You're catching up. It's good. And Judy.
Yes, my technical difficulties and basically being a chicken heart. I don't like singing by myself. The only time I've ever done it in my life was in Hong Kong, where I figured no one would ever see me ever for the rest of my life. And so I wasn't too worried about it. And still, I actually have a photo. I was so bloody nervous. I was actually tugging on my skirt while I was doing a solo in front of this huge auditorium. I'm going, are you kidding me? Was I really doing that?
It's funny. I've sung karaoke in bars and such all over the place. I'm having trouble getting in front of the microphone.
Mhm.
It's very strange. I've sung
Yeah.
in huge auditoriums of hundreds and hundreds of people at a time, and I can't get myself to
Yeah.
sit down with the mic.
It
Yeah.
shows up weaknesses you didn't realize you had, I think is what part of this is. I
Yeah.
was saying to Adam, in the sing on, there's a place where I go above my break and then I come back down and go back up again. I always take pride in I'm right on pitch, right? I wasn't on pitch. When I heard myself sing, I'm thinking, oh, that wasn't good.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just it's a little demeaning, I think, sometimes. Yeah.
Wait, demeaning?
Well, what I mean is it
I-
doesn't sound like you think you sound is what the
Yeah.
problem is.
Yeah. I would look for a different word. Not that I'm
Okay.
saying you're wrong, it's up to you, but my feeling is demeaning means that somebody is putting you down about it, and I wouldn't at all feel that way.
No, I'm putting myself down.
Well, no, don't do that.
It's a self-confidence, self-image thing.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
would call it a humbling experience.
Yeah.
It is very humbling.
Yeah.
And Adam, before I sign off, I just I was so early in getting all these recordings in, and I'm always sure when you pick up the mistakes and the voices coming in that they're me you're talking about. See, that's part of my problem. But if you need me to re-record, let me know. I'm gonna be over at Seth's on Friday. So
Okay. Yeah,
I'm gonna try to get
it's a question that's in my mind is how explicit should I be about what I'm hearing, and because I do think that everybody who's turned in a recording said, oh no, that's me, and that's not necessarily true. So, but on the other hand, it's important to be able to share what people can learn from. I think that's a crucial thing, and I think
I have no
people,
problem with being told that I'm doing something wrong. I just want to know if you want me to do something over again, just let me know because I do have time. So
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I might not know in time to tell you, and that's okay. So
bye everybody.
okay, Chris, anything from you? You're muted or not muted, but I can't hear you. Oh, there you are.
Thank you. I'll leave and let you chat.
Okay, thanks, Marianne.
Thank you.
When you're talking about the breathing, for the the beginning, you're just talking about abdominal breathing, I believe, and the support that you get from the abdomen. Because I take my breaths, I don't use my shoulders or anything like that. I think you're just talking about that support underneath where the diaphragm drops down, and you just, that's how I stay for long. If I'm doing a long phrase or something, that's my support right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
what you're talking about, isn't it?
Pretty, yeah. I don't necessarily use the word abdominal because there's more to it than just that, but in that vicinity, sure, I agree with that.
Okay, I'm still working on it.
Well, no, I sense that there's something.
Oh, I just think it sounds like I think you're making it more complicated than it really is. But maybe I'm not. I don't know. It just I've always breathed that way. I think I had directors from years and years and years ago that talked about don't let that collapse. Don't let that collapse. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Don't let it collapse. Those are the words that are coming back to me from 30 years ago.
And I'm changing that, or I'm doing it differently than that.
I think that's exactly what I've always been doing, and I'm thinking, I don't think you're trying to change me. I think that's what I do.
Right.
And I'm thinking, is this a new thing for other people, or am I misunderstanding?
No, I think that there are some members of the chorale who do sustain their tone with breath management throughout the phrases, and there are a fair number who don't.
Okay.
Their tone quality changes and wavers and doesn't necessarily have that solid support. So it's one of the challenges for any director is when you're teaching something, there's going to be a variety of ways that people respond to it, and certain people who probably already have an idea of what you're talking about may take what you are saying and kind of exponentially apply it to themselves. They're already doing it, but you're saying it, so that means I need to do it more or something like that. And then there are people who don't hear it at all and they don't apply it at all. And then there are people in the middle who do kind of a mixture.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's, yeah, so apply it as it feels like it fits for
Okay.
you
Okay.
and not beyond that.
All right. That's
Yeah.
all I need.
So, okay, good. And you're
Thank
sounding
you.
great in your recording, so
Well, thank
nothing to
you.
worry about there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Adam?
right. I'm going to leave then.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Yes,
Thank
Judy.
you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, one other thing I noticed listening to myself. I mean, I know I have terrible lung capacity because I've got scarring in my lungs and
Mhm.
I can't even walk up steps without running out of breath.
Mhm.
So that was embarrassing. How many times I can sneak a breath when there's a whole
Mhm.
bunch of people around me. I can't when I'm by myself. And so
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what I can do about that. You know, I try sitting up straighter. I can't really stand and still see everything that I need to see to
Mhm.
get the recording going. And I've been holding the silly phone in my hand. I'm thinking if there's a way I can prop it up, and that might be a little easier too.
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't need to be held that closely to you. As a matter of fact, if I remember right, maybe I said something to you in my feedback about how it was too close to you. I think I might have said that. No, I didn't. Okay. Well,
But I'll
see
keep
if you,
experimenting.
you know, arm's length away or a little bit farther is okay. And you find it something to rest it on, ideally something soft like a towel maybe would be a good idea. Not covering it, but just so it's supported on a towel would be good. But in terms of the breathing thing you're talking about, go ahead and breathe just like you would when you have people around you. So you said you can sneak breaths in when you're comfortable that you've got other people covering you. Well, you do have other people covering you. You just can't hear them yet, right? So trust that that's still there and that you have the time that you need to get the breath that you need and sing in a relaxed way. That's what I
And
would say.
and what you were saying about do it right after the rehearsal, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hard to get my voice in going, except I'm hungry today, so I'm not going to do it today.
That's okay. No problem.
But it's on the website, right? If I wanted to hear a rehearsal,
Yeah,
and then I can.
sure. All these rehearsals are on the website. So
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
okay, thanks, Judy. Okay, anything last from you, Brian?
Yeah, just one thing that you emailed several days ago about the photo credit
Right.
thing. I just sent you an email during rehearsal. The page is up there. That is where you'll have to go to the link. It's not a published page anywhere, but and only admins can see it. But it's there if you click on the link in the email.
Okay.
It should show up and have all the all the pictures and it doesn't have a way to get to the pictures from there. They just show a thumbnail of it, but
Okay.
you'll be able to tell which ones are which in
It's
most
like
cases, I think.
a reference for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a good reference, and you can go through and see what you need to see.
And that's automatically populated as new pictures
Yes.
come in. Okay.
Yes, it reflects the current state of the database, whatever it currently is.
Okay.
So
sounds good.
that should help you.
All
Let me know
right.
if there's anything you need from it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm taking a while to get back onto my emails. That school is driving me nuts, and
Uh-huh.
just there's this. It's been a busy fall, and things just are not getting done. So
Uh-huh. Well, I appreciate you.
I will keep working on it.
Taking care of that. So.
Yep.
Yep.
Talk to you
Okay.
later.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.